This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather. Hello there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. It's kind of a somber on this day because of the accident that happened. But anyway, July 30th, 1980, the Houston Astros were ready to play, and J.R. Richard was making his warm-up pitches, doing everything he could, but then disaster happened. I know there are pictures of him being wheeled off by a stretcher, but I decided not to go with that route. Anyway, the story of J.R. Richard and how he got here was huge. All that. The man born in Vienna, Louisiana. He actually had a lot of basketball scholarship offers, but he decided to sign with the Astros. Houston would, well, because Houston signed him second overall in the 1969 draft. Anyway, he went to the minor leagues and all that. He would enter baseball with the Astros in 1971 as a September call-up. At age 21, he actually pitched against the Giants and picked up 15 strikeouts in his first start, which tied a major league record. The Astros won 5-3, and he even struck out Willie Mays 3 times, which is not easy to do. Regardless of that, Richard would actually make another start against Pete Rose. He gave up, well, to the Reds. He gave up a leadoff home run to Pete Rose, but still pitched 5 innings and all that. He would struggle in his last few innings, the last few games. He would be in and out of the minors for a while and all that. So, anyway, a lot of people said that his wildness was why he would be best from the Astros to the minor leagues, but he said that racism may have played a role in it. That's what he said. Houston would trade Claude Osteen to St. Louis, but also lost Don Wilson, who was their ace, who died of carbon monoxide poisoning at age 29 in 1975. Now, a lot of people thought that Don Wilson had killed himself, but no, it was a freak accident that something to do with a car running in his badly vented garage and all that. It killed him and his son. Richard would become the third guy in the Astros roster behind Larry Dierker and Dave Roberts. Not that Dave Roberts, the pitcher Dave Roberts, not the Dodgers manager. Richard actually was removed from his first start in the 5th inning, jamming his toe in the first base bag. But he would continue to exhibit wildness and all that. His first major year with the Astros, in 1975, he was 12-10. He was the only starter to actually win more than lose. He put up 176 strikeouts, 5th in the National League. However, in 1976, he was a breakout star. He was the opening day pitcher against the Reds. He gave up 4 runs in 4 innings. But despite all that, he won 5 of his next 6 games, including a 10-inning shutout effort against the Dodgers. He was 5-5 by the month of May, and at the All-Star game, he was 9-9. Not really good and all that. However, for some strange reason, from July 10th, the All-Star game started till August 31st. He put up a 7-4 mark, putting him at 16-13. He would also, but after that, in September and October, he went 4-2. So he ended up with a 20-15 record, 14 complete games, 3 shutouts, and 214 strikeouts, making him the second pitcher in Astros history after Larry Dierker to get 20 wins in a season. He was 7th in Cy Young voting. The 1977 season, he hit well for a pitcher and all of that. So he actually was leading the league in wild pitches, despite his 18-12 mark and 214 strikeouts. However, 1978 was a whole better year for him. He was the Astros' opening day starter. Unfortunately, the Reds pounded him to fine powder. At the All-Star game, it was 8-9. However, something clicked again after the All-Star break, and he went 10-2. He ended up 18-11 with a 3.11 ERA, and actually got 300 strikeouts. Strikeout role in office of the Braves. So he became the first NL right-hander in history to strike out 300 batters in a single season, which was strange. No one did that. So, anyway, that was a lot of pressure. So, in his second game of the 1979 season, well, 18-11, 3.11 ERA, he was fourth in Cy Young voting. In 1979, he went 18-13 with a 2.71 ERA, doing quite well for himself. He would be third in Cy Young behind Bruce Sutter and Joe Niekro. And would sign a 4-year deal in 1979 to stay with the Astros. He was looking pretty good. He started the first half of the season 10-4 with 115 strikeouts and a 1.96 ERA. He was made NL starting pitcher for the All-Star game, but pitched 2 innings because of back and shoulder problems. JR would actually complain of a dead arm, saying that he has shoulder and forearm discomfort, but nobody believed him in all that. Richard JR was pitching well against the Braves July 14th, but he had trouble seeing Ashby signs and moving his arm. Felt like his right arm went dead. His numbness in his right hand couldn't grasp a baseball, so he was put on the DL for 21 days. 9 days later, he checked into a hospital in Houston for a series of tests to determine the cause of his mysterious arm problems. An angiogram revealed an obstruction in the subclavian and axillary arteries of the right arm. His blood pressure in his left arm was normal, but it was nearly absent in his right arm because of the obstructed artery. His neck arteries were studied and said all was well. On July 30th, he went to the chiropractor who rotated his neck to fix the flow of blood in his upper torso region. Later that day, he participated in warm-ups, but would have a major stroke and collapse in the outfield. He had a headache and feeling weakness, but then it progressed to vision problems and paralysis. They did find a blockage in his right artery, which meant he needed emergency surgery. He had blurred vision through his left eye, which was terrible and all that. The obstructions in his arterial system made him have 3 separate strokes, and the arteries in his right were still obstructed. All that. Anyway, yeah. JR would go through rehab and miss the rest of the season. He would make an attempt to come back to Houston. He pitched in a few simulated games. But Astros manager Bill Ferdin didn't think JR was ready to return. So he went through spring training and all that. Stayed on the AAA roster, but no, nothing much. The Astros would release him in 1984. The risk of future complications was so great he never pitched again, so he finished his year with 107 wins and 1,493 strikeouts, which was an Astros record until Nolan Ryan broke it. So he was pretty good. It looked pretty good to get at least 18 more wins. He unfortunately, for some strange reason, was actually living under an overpass by 1995. However, he turned to a church and sought help from its minister. And J. Richard overcame his homelessness and started working at an asphalt company and was a minister for the church. And all that. Unfortunately, he would die of COVID-19 August 4th, 2021 at age 71. But compared to the fact that, it could have been much worse. The stroke could have killed him. and made J.R. Richard good. And the poor Astros had to deal without J.R. Richard. The good news for the Astros was they did get to the 19 well, they got to the 1980 NLCS. The Dodgers put them into a game 163, meaning that there was a one-game playoff between the Astros and the Dodgers. And the Astros won at Dodger Stadium to face the Phillies in the LCS and choked a couple of key games at the Astrodome, and the Phillies won the NLCS. All right, after that, Jared Richard could have been a great player and given Houston that one tiny little bit extra for a trip to the World Series. But a stroke's a stroke, and that is just terrible. Anyhow, I'm just not going to do